Welcome back to the channel, my friends. Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man, and today we're taking a look at this week's pre-orders, and they are about to go live. This video is sponsored by CMO Games. More on that later. Alright, so we got the massive release of Skaventide Age of Sigmar 4.0 Launch Box. We are currently in the queue, or at least it's about to get started here. I know there is a ton of excitement locally, and the internet appears to be buzzing with the excitement for Skaventide. The new range refresh for Skaven after basically years of stagnation, as well as a range refresh for the brand new Stormcast Eternals, a bunch of the old kits getting replaced, a bunch of new data sheets coming out, the launch of Spearhead. Super exciting. All right, so we got the queue kicking off here. We'll have 10 minutes once we get in the actual queue. Let's see what our estimated wait time is here. Usually it takes just a minute for Games Workshop to actually populate the queue and then give us an idea as to what's going on. I did do a quick check before the actual queue pre-waitment went into effect, just to see what the sales look like in other regions. And so far from what I'm seeing, checking out Australia, checking out the UK, and then also checking out the EU, it looks like nothing has really sold out. Now, we don't know exactly how many have been sold. I did notice that they were restricted to 5 copies per order. It did appear that the freebies were still in stock in all those websites as well. Now, we know in the past and more recently, Games Workshop has been holding back quite a bit of their stock to sell as much as they can direct. They've been offering up tons of freebies with these big launch sets to cut out the middleman. Make sure that you purchase direct from them because they make a substantially larger profit margin if they cut out your friendly local game store. And obviously they're incentivizing these sales with things like these super cool token objective markers for the Skaven and Stormcast. Also, if you order from actual in-store location, a Games Workshop official, you're going to get access to the command point tokens in the Skaven and Stormcast, all made out of metal, all some nice cool game aids, but 100% put in place for Games Workshop to make the big bucks selling directly to you. So it does look like the initial queue is jumping off at a 26-minute wait. Now, oftentimes in the past, I've found that it'll quote you something like 26 minutes, and then realistically, you'll make it through in 5 or 10 minutes. It's just that initial surge, people checking to see how busy it is, or just the initial amount of people in the queue is a ton. But then after that, there's no real new people coming in. So once the queue counts down from that initial surge, there's basically no wait. And we'll see here in just a few minutes if that is in fact the case. Now, from what I've heard from people that have reached out to me, there's been no real shortage of Skaventide. Everybody that's after one of these sets should be able to get a hold of one at no problem. I'm already seeing them populated on places like eBay and Amazon with a nice discount. Your typical 15 to 20% depending on where you're located, which is typically not the case when people get that FOMO when there's a limited amount of something and they're really afraid of bots or scalpers buying up the super limited supply and then jacking up the prices to account for the actual value based on MSRP of what's in the box relative to the actual MSRP suggested retail price. All right, so we already see a massive jump down here from 26 minutes down to 9, and it's only been a couple of minutes so far. So it does look like I'm going to be correct about the actual queue, the initial surge, and then there really not being as much direct demand as initially anticipated. Now, it is worth note that we also have the limited edition release of the Skaventide signed book. Those are limited and signed copies. They tend to be fairly popular, specifically with the launch of a new edition. But we do also have Games Workshop releasing the regular copy as well at the same time. A lot of times doing that will soak up some of the excess demand that would have possibly gone into the limited edition book when people would just go for the regular book at less than half the price. But when they put a multi-month waiting period before they release the hardback copy of a book, a lot of times people will just pay the extra 35 or 40 bucks just to get the book right away because they're excited to read up on what's going on, hear about the lore, and get the full scope of things. So the release of the actual hardback Skaventide alongside the limited edition copy of the book will probably satiate quite a bit of that demand, but I do expect the Skaventide limited edition book to sell out relatively quickly. As far as the actual Skaventide Launch Box, what we've seen in the past, specifically with things like Dominion, is basically the best case scenario for Games Workshop, but the worst case scenario for independent retailers, where Games Workshop sent out an initial order to retailers to fill their demand, had limited allocations, sold a ton of copies direct through their own web store, and then immediately without notification, as soon as the initial demand was satiated, they essentially just dumped all the remaining stock on those retailers using the FOMO, the excitement, all of the marketing that they put in place to clear out their own warehouses to make their profit margins by selling direct and then dumping the rest of the quantity on those retailers who later on over the next 3 years or so ended up selling a lot of those copies at cost or below cost. as we saw that Dominion box was retail of $200. And then realistically, for the last like 2+ years, you've been able to pick those things up for about $100. They've been giving them away as like store promos. They were essentially like a dime a dozen. So I'm not sure if that's going to be the case this time. In the last 3 years, there's been a ton more popularity into Games Workshop. There's been a ton more popularity brought into it through the video games, Total War. We also have the excitement behind Skaven and their range refresh relative to the kruleboyz, who, while cool, were just not that popular of a faction, and Games Workshop essentially saturated the market with them. This box is also packed with Stormcast Eternals, and believe it or not, they are actually pretty popular, even though they are sort of like the Space Marines of Age of Sigmar, and a lot of people don't particularly like them. The fact of the matter is, they are a popular faction. People love dragons, people love knights, and they're one of the most popular starting armies because you can get so many of those models at such a nice discount in their launch boxes and other deals. All right, so we are basically through the queue at this point in time with less than 1 minute remaining. It initially quoted like 26-minute wait time. It's been about 10 minutes. So it does look like that was just a initial surge in demand, people in line, feeling that FOMO, trying to make sure that they get a hold of their box set, get a hold of those tokens or the limited edition book. But this is not what you would see typically with a massive surge of interest or like something that's going to be selling out. So while I do think the limited edition book will probably sell out relatively quickly, it does look like there's going to be plenty of Skaventide to go around, as I initially predicted. And of course you would expect that with like a large box set. Even though in the past with things like Leviathan and Indominus, we saw those things sell out in literally minutes. The queues were massive with like over an hour wait times, and the item was out of stock like worldwide within like an hour or two of like the initial release. All right, so we made it through the queue. We are on Games Workshop's web store. We'll go over to new and exclusive. Give it a scroll down here and take a look. So we have the Skaventide box, Skaventide hardback, Skaventide special edition, and then of course the objective markers as well. These are the 4 pre-orders for this week. So let's take a look here. All right, so here for the Skaventide box set, it does look like it is restricted to 5 per person. Obviously, this is a really nice box set. 72 brand new sculpted miniatures. If you order direct from Games Workshop, you're going to get these 6 tokens with 3 Stormcast Eternal and 3 Skaven objective markers. They're made out of metal. You have everything in the box to play Spearhead. You have the actual core book for Age of Sigmar 4.0. The Spearhead board, and then all of the cards for this season's battle scrolls. You have 2 full forces with your Stormcast Eternals and Skaven, probably somewhere around like 1,200 to 1,500 points per army, and then a little bit of terrain as well. Really, really nice box set right here. I've done a full breakdown on this and like the estimated MSRP value and savings, and this is by far one of the best boxes Games Workshop has ever offered. With a $265 retail, we calculated somewhere around like $900 to $1,000 in MSRP value in this box set. These are all going to be easy to build, push fit miniatures, but they are brand new sculpts. We know Games Workshop's technology has gone to the next level as we see some of the best sculpts ever produced by Games Workshop or any other competitor for that matter. Absolutely beautiful Stormcast Eternal models. Great for things like Dungeons and Dragons as well. Full Spearhead forces with additional models, and then of course the level of detail and then also the convenience of like the easy to build stuff is even more desirable to some people. And then jumping over to the Skaven, again, I've seen quite a few people have already gotten an early access copy of some of these, and they look absolutely beautiful painted up. Awesome models. Nice range refresh after years of stagnation for the Skaven. Beautiful new rat ogres. Just really cool models right here, and a very nice box set. I am definitely picking up a couple copies of these and cannot wait to get my hands on these new models. All right, and then we have the Skaventide hardback for $35. We also have the Skaventide special edition for $75. So no specific details as to exactly how many of the Skaventide special edition books are being released. It is a really nice cover, very nice quality and artwork. Definitely missed the opportunity to have some of the Skaven artwork on the actual cover of this. I would have loved to see like the Stormcast on one half and Skaven on the other. $75 for this bad boy. It is signed by the author here, but we don't see specifically Games Workshop in the past will include exactly how many of these are being produced. So you'll see like copy number 1 of 2,500. So the fact that they're not showing that off and it's specifically not stated anywhere in the actual web store listing tells me that they probably made a decent amount of these. So I'm not sure if I would estimate higher than 2,500 or 3,500 copies, but I would imagine it'll still sell out relatively quickly. But you should be able to get a hold of one, no problem, if you are after it. It is restricted to 1 per person. And when I checked the international sites online previously, didn't appear to be selling out. Now a quick message from today's sponsor. CMO Games has been selling Games Workshop products online for over 20 years. They carry the full line of Games Workshop products including Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, Necromunda, Blood Bowl, paint tools, and more. Almost all Games Workshop products are priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games takes pre-orders for most Games Workshop products released at their earliest date possible. 12:01 a.m. on Saturday, they go live. Most of these pre-order products are also priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games offer free shipping in the US 48 with an order of $50 or more. Their customer service is top-notch and they ship most orders within 24 hours. Visit CMOGames.com using the affiliate link in the description and let them know that you heard about CMO Games from Warhammer Man. Now, back to the video. And last but not least are the Skaventide objective markers. So you can't actually buy these. These are only offered directly through Games Workshop if you pick up your copy at full price from them. You do get 3 of the Skaven metal objective markers and then 3 of the Stormcast metal objective markers. So pretty cool, nice little game aid. But in all reality, I think most people prefer like the neoprene full-size objective markers with like the actual control zone built into them. But these are definitely cool, and I know a lot of people are after these specifically. So that is it for this week's pre-orders for Skaventide, the massive launch of the new Age of Sigmar 4.0, the Skaventide box, and then of course the Spearhead game mode as well, the new book, and then all of the other little bonuses here. I'm interested to see when I get booted out of the queue and jump back in what the wait time is going to look like, but I suspect that the queue will be gone relatively quickly, or even if it's still in place, that you'll just jump straight to the web store. So a lot of people said that the actual Dominion launch was a failure, but in all reality, Games Workshop sold all of its copies. So to them, it looks like a great success. Whenever they produce something and sell all of it, that's a win for them. The real losers were all the stores that got stuck with like piles to the ceiling of Dominion boxes that were sitting there collecting dust and then eventually were liquidated at half of MSRP. Now, I'm not sure if I would go that far as to say that's what's going to happen here with Skaventide. Obviously, I don't want friendly local game stores to get screwed over and stuck with a bunch of stock that they have to liquidate at a loss. But to tell you the truth, that was great for the community as I picked up a couple of boxes of Dominion for half price. Same thing with Necromunda Ash Waste, and to tell you the truth, I wasn't mad about it. So was Skaventide massively overhyped and overproduced, and now it's going to end up flooding the market once again? Only time will tell. Is Skaventide a flop? We'll see in time. I know I'm super excited for it. I know a lot of other people are super excited for it. There's definitely an insurge of new players with the idea of like the Spearhead mode, as well as all the people coming over from like the video game world, trying out tabletop war games for the first time with the success of Total War, the excitement behind the new Space Marine video game, also like the Amazon series, etc. So let me know what you think, which copy of Skaventide you're picking up. Are you ordering directly from Games Workshop to get a hold of the objective markers? Are you buying from your friendly local game store, hoping to get a journal and support them? Always like to hear back from you guys in the comments. And as always, special thanks to CMO Games for sponsoring the channel. Check out the link in the description to save 15% on Games Workshop products with free shipping in the USA. And thanks to all the people that went over there and picked up their copy through CMO Games and let them know that Warhammer Man sent you. That's it for today. Warhammer Man Studios, I'm Warhammer Man, and I'm excited for Skaventide, but this does not bode well for the popularity of it. And I'm out of here.